In this video, I'll be going over some of my other favourite lesser-known hotspots around London. Local tips with a few hidden gems thrown in. There will almost certainly be something on this list that you haven't thought of, but definitely should if you have the extra time. If strolling around canals, getting lost in London's very own mini forest, visiting Harry Potter film locations, and a lift that sings to you all sound like your cup of tea, then stay with us. Spitalfields Market hosts a trendy melting pot of independent traders, bringing together a wide range of designers and artists. If you're looking for a souvenir a little more unique than this, then Spitalfields is a good place to start, with handcrafted pieces, homewares and original artworks, along with a mixture of contemporary and vintage clothing. Starting life in an empty field 800 years ago, the market has always kept up with the times, with a recent regeneration creating what you see here today. Once you've finished market hopping, Spitalfields also boasts an impressive selection of tasty grub. Although Borough Market is my favourite London market, Spitalfields is a close second. It branches beyond food with a younger, more dynamic vibe. Next is an area I avoided for years but have recently come around on. Naming an area as Little Venice is a very quick way to make me don my sceptical British hat and dismiss this marketing naming as nonsense. And while you should very much understand that Little Venice should in truth be called not really Venice in any way, but there is a nice canal so please visit us, it does actually offer a peaceful oasis. Starting near Warwick Avenue tube station, you have the choice of a shorter stroll towards Paddington Station or a longer, roughly 2-mile canal meander towards Camden Lock. Walking past residential homes, cafes, bars, wildlife and more, you'll also have the option to ride some of the canal boats if you prefer an even more leisurely approach. It might not be Venice, but it certainly won't feel like London. One of the first touristy things I did in London 15 years ago was a tour-guided walk. Whilst the typical sightseeing buses are a good way to cover lots of ground quickly, London will always be best discovered on foot. There are numerous tour-guided walks throughout the city, some which are free and you can Google for yourself, but the company I've used and always have enjoyed is London Walks. Over the years I have been on ghost walks, Jack the Ripper walks, historical walks and, as filmed here, a Harry Potter film locations walk. Starting in the city, our guide talked us through the areas thought to have inspired J.K. Rowling's magical world. From there, we quickly went on to the original Diagon Alley and the entrance to the Leaky Cauldron. And as a quick aside, if you are in the City of London, then Leadenhall Market is a great thing to see in itself, boy wizard or no boy wizard. Now, I'm not specifically putting this Harry Potter walk on my list here, but instead pointing out that London really comes alive when told through the words of a guide right in front of you. Rooftop bars in London sound like a great idea, but are often overcrowded and expensive, requiring advanced booking or a long queue before you can even start to enjoy them. Enter the South Bank Centre and Royal Festival Hall. A particular highlight along the way is to take a ride in the singing lift. Going from a deep voice on the basement level to a high soprano on the 6th, but it's on the 5th floor that you will find the unheard of happening in London. A bar, a balcony and a view with plenty of space for which to enjoy it. And just behind the festival hall, away from the River Thames and therefore very easy to miss, is an occasional food market. Next is King's Road in Chelsea, a long stretch with a mix of fashionable boutiques, designer shops and high street staples, along with a range of eateries. I'm not quite sure what it is about King's Road that I like so much, since it is basically just a row of shops. But I think it's that in terms of shopping, it feels more local, unique and authentic than say Bond or Oxford Street. Upon exiting Hampstead Tube Station, you're immediately welcomed with this quaint English neighbourhood vibe. Wandering around its numerous streets, passageways, side streets, alleys and other things that all mean the same, you can spend a good hour or two just meandering and taking it all in. After leaving Flask Walk, make a gentle beeline towards Hampstead Heath itself, and while along the way, making sure you enjoy the houses that you'll never be able to afford. Walking through Hampstead Heath is probably the furthest away from London that you'll feel while still being in London. Once the greenery surrounds you on all sides, it's easy to forget that there are 8 million people beyond those trees.
Lonely in the desert, he invited me to stay.
A trip to Hampstead is not complete without reaching the summit from Parliament Hill, offering the best wide-angle view of the city. And if you're feeling spontaneous, and especially if the weather is good, then why not end your visit with a spot of swimming in a Hampstead Heath bathing pond? If you are near London Bridge, then Hayes Galleria marks the start of a nice little walking route I've enjoyed many times before. The Galleria reveals itself beautifully when coming from Tooley Street. Housing an assortment of shops, cafes and traders, it's often a quiet oasis for a pit stop. Heading out from under the roof, you'll be met with some great views of the City of London and the HMS Belfast, a Second World War battleship which acts as a floating museum. Walking further east will bring you to an open area known as More London, or London Bridge City. Considering this is ultimately a place for financial companies and City Hall, it's a pretty great place with a number of events happening mostly over the summer months. This is also the best spot to get that photo with Tower Bridge. Bringing us back full circle towards London Bridge is a walk down More London Place, which is a long narrow path lined with modern glass offices. This so far doesn't seem too interesting, but as you walk down, I love how the design of this street is positioned so that one side points towards the Shard, which is the UK's tallest building, whilst the other side points directly to Tower Bridge. It's a great little photo spot and a unique piece of town planning.